Now, Positively Ernie with Ernie Anastos, a New York TV legend and radio host with great positive stories and interviews.
Thanks, Ernie. You're the best.
And now, here's Ernie.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the show. We have another great guest today. Let me start by saying this. You know, historically, women have really suffered from a lot of problems with economic and other opportunities in our country and around the world, in fact. But you know what? We've seen tremendous progress over time, and I love seeing that, and there's more to come. They're making great strides, and I want you to meet a woman who's doing wonderful work. Her name is Rabbi Rebecca Jablonski, and she's got a great book out. Nice to see you, Karen.
Hiya.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for having me.
Becky, this is a great book.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, this is a wonderful book. And, you know, by the way, Happy New Year to you.
Thank you so much.
Starting things off in a nice way.
Absolutely.
You feel positive about what's going on?
The only way is up and onward.
Yeah.
And we have to hopefully just bring joy to our families, to our communities, and look for ways to celebrate in a positive way.
Absolutely. Well, you are a rabbi. We're talking
True.
about women making great strides.
Yes.
What made you decide that you wanted to be a rabbi?
Wow. That's a great way to start.
Yeah.
Start almost at the beginning. But truly, for me, the way I grew up in the Maryland suburbs of Washington, D.C., I grew up in a pretty insular community. All my friends were Jewish. I went to Jewish day school my entire life.
Okay.
And the Monday after my own bat mitzvah, I really only had one way of thinking of having an allowance or creating a Jewish career for myself, and that was to get a job at the synagogue. And so I started literally the Monday after my bat mitzvah teaching other children to read in Hebrew and to sing from our scriptures.
So you were a teacher in many ways.
I was a teacher,
Yeah.
age 13.
Right.
And I found other ways as either a camp counselor or I would even charge some of my peers to type their homework in Hebrew, etc., to always be somewhat in the Jewish business of the world.
Right.
But it was hard for me to ever consider that a woman could hold the title of rabbi. All of my teachers were female, but most of nearly all the rabbis I ever encountered growing up
Now,
were
Becky,
men.
how long ago was that?
It was in the 90s.
In the 90s,
and
okay.
early 2000s.
Okay. Were there
Yes.
other women rabbis at the time?
There were.
Yeah.
The first female rabbi, Sally Prysand, she was ordained in the 70s.
Okay.
But still, where I grew up in conservative Washington and going to a religious school, I did not encounter any of those female rabbis. And there was almost... there was a connotation that maybe those women were something like that they were living alternative lifestyles. And again, growing up in a religious community, it wasn't necessarily something that was available. Plenty of kids were encouraged to be in law or doctors or teachers.
The usual. Yeah, sure.
The usual,
Yeah,
especially for a Jewish
But
community.
to be a rabbi was a little stepping out and saying,
Correct.
I want to do this. This is different.
Correct. And so I went to NYU. I went to actually the Tisch School of the Arts.
Sure.
And I studied
Great school.
performance.
Yeah.
And while I was there, I met an incredible woman who really shaped the course of the rest of my life.
There's always somebody, right? Somebody that influences us, gives us something of direction.
Absolutely.
Okay. So
Actually,
that you
there's
had-
always something. Maybe it will be a situation. Maybe it will even be God if your ears are attuned to listen.
I understand that.
But this woman was sort of a mixture. Your viewers and your listeners may know her. She's a very prolific writer and creator on stage. Her name was Elizabeth Swados. Elizabeth Swados was a woman who was nominated for 4 Tony Awards in 1 year. She was, she
Great
made
talent.
her great talent.
Great talent, yeah.
And she was a guest teacher at the time at NYU, and she was doing a Jewish play. And I tried out for it. And from that moment on, she was like my second mother or my honorary mother.
That's a great relationship.
And as we worked together for 10 years, and sometimes we worked on Jewish musicals, sometimes we worked on theater projects, sometimes I even helped edit her books, she started to push me towards the direction of clergy. And in her last work, she passed away in 2016 of esophageal cancer. But in her last work, she wrote a book about kind of me and her.
Really?
And
what's the name of that book?
It's called Walking the Dog.
Walking the Dog. Wow, that's a good title.
Yeah, it's about an artist who mends relationships with people through walking a dog and religion. So I came in with the religious, I came in with the religion, and as we were revising the book on her, what became her deathbed, and I was giving her notes, I asked her, is this what you want for my life?
Right.
Do you want me to become a rabbi? And she said, I want you to start interviewing at seminaries.
Well, isn't that interesting? So she kind of guided you in that direction.
Correct.
But you had that desire to begin with, because you said you were very close to your faith.
Absolutely.
Very involved with the Jewish community.
I was observant.
Right.
I was already working in some capacity for many synagogues.
Yeah. You had the foundation.
I had the foundation, just that little switch of knowing that myself as a woman, that I could hold that beautiful title of being a rabbi, being both a master teacher and a facilitator of religious practice.
Were there any roadblocks? Were there any difficulties, getting there? I see
how much time is the segment?
Well, keep it short enough so people can get the feel for it.
Well, my parents were always very supportive of anything. I mean, when you have a daughter who goes to art school, you already know you have supportive parents. So they were supportive, but I have a contingent of my family that is Orthodox, which means the strictest form of observance.
Sure.
And I was advised from some of those people that because I was still single in New York, that it would be very hard for me to find a husband if I were going to be single and start becoming a rabbi, and especially at my age. A lot of rabbis find their partners in rabbinical school, but I was starting rabbinical school at a slightly older age, and I probably wouldn't have found my life partner there. And
so did that worry you? Did you say, well, I better think about this now? Or did you just say, obviously, I'm going forward?
I did think about it.
Yeah.
And that's, to be honest, because the first commandment in the Old Testament, in the Bible, is to procreate. And I really wanted to have a family. And I was so used to being judged as an artist, so used to being judged as a woman, that it took some time to really think about whether or not this was the path for me.
Okay.
But I couldn't stop, and I'm so lucky that I got married this year to a wonderful, thank you very much, wonderful man who was actually my friend for 15 years.
Oh, that's the best kind of relationship.
Best.
Wonderful.
And he's obviously very supportive of my career.
So you became a rabbi.
There I am.
Okay, when you became a rabbi, were you assigned, to a synagogue, or how does that work?
It could work that way.
Okay.
But I always sought, as both an educator and in my rabbinate, my potential rabbinate, to serve families who were perhaps underserved by institutional religion, but still were seeking religious experiences. In the same way that we have Uber or Uber Eats and Postmates.
Sure, I understand that.
People want things when they want it and in the place that they want it. And I serve people in New York, and there are extraordinary families here who have a house maybe in multiple states, who send their children away in summer camps, but they still want them to have religious instruction while they're away, or they want somebody to go with them to Israel. A pulpit rabbi can't go on pilgrimage trips.
Exactly.
So
you made that choice. Which is good. And you've been working with a lot of families, a lot of young people. And, you mentioned kind of a general statement about faith and spirituality and religion. There's something in your book when I opened this up, and it's called confession. I don't feel the need to go to synagogue. Tell me about that. What does that mean?
So I'll start with confession, which is often people don't think of Jews doing confession. They think of Catholics going to the confession booth and saying confession. But actually, Jewish people have a practice of confession. We actually just spent this past weekend doing it on Yom Kippur. We spent a huge part of the day confessing to things. And often confessing brings us closer to either our truth or a better side to ourselves.
Yeah, facing reality.
Facing reality, absolutely. So in that confession, when I say, I don't necessarily need to go to an institution in order to practice many of the commands, including dietary rules, including holiday observance. And also, I don't need an institution to infuse my life with Judaism. It's everywhere in my home. It's everywhere on my body and all the little jewels that you see around me.
Yeah.
And God is everywhere. And yes, God can be in gorgeous historic buildings all over any city or any place in the world. But we can find God in other places and bring God to us just as much as we can go to places of God.
A lot of people are listening to that and agreeing, and so am I, because I really feel that way. I feel that, if you have faith in its purest form, it's simple. It's simple. And it gets very complicated when we start getting into a lot of religious dogmas and so on and so forth. And that complicates it and makes people argue.
Yeah.
And then we shouldn't be arguing. We should be saying, in terms of spirituality, one creator, a loving creator for all mankind, be good to each other, follow the basic rules of life, 10 Commandments and so forth, and just live your life accordingly. There are saints walking the street, you know that, who have never been in a church, a synagogue, a mosque, whatever, but they're pure, and they do the right thing because they're following their heart and soul, and they are being guided and directed. And that's what you're doing. I applaud you for that. That's great work.
Thank you.
It must be rewarding, too, when you're working with families, and particularly a lot of the young kids, because you mentioned that, to be able to see some progress and see some positive results.
I think that is one of the most rewarding things that I work with children, and I watch them as they grow up. Some children I meet when they're toddlers, and now they are in college or maybe even beyond, and they turn to me for counsel. Things like, should I get a tattoo? Or I'm dating somebody who's not of the Jewish faith, and how should I handle that? Yeah. And how shall I break the news to my parents? Or children come to me oftentimes when maybe their parents are starting to divorce. And when their family divorces, often the institutions that they held close now become a source of contention as well. Sure. And so children may stay or leave their Jewish institution, like a community center or a synagogue.
You're like a therapist. You're a counselor. I mean, that's the kind of work that you're talking about.
Yeah, it's the job of a rabbi.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's exactly what you're doing. Being able to help out in many different situations.
Imagine this. The best pasta sauce you have ever tasted sits abandoned on a plate. Wasted sauce. That is a tragedy. If only you had used Barilla al Bronzo pasta. Its bronze-cut texture holds your sauce and scoops up every last drop. The Italians call that scarpetta. Capture sauce the Italian way. Barilla al Bronzo. Click or tap the banner to find out more.
Hi, I'm Richard Karn, and you may have seen me on TV talking about the world's #1 expandable garden hose. Well, the brand new Pocket Hose Copperhead with Pocket Pivot is here, and it's a total game changer. Old-fashioned hoses get kinks and creases at the spigot, but the Copperhead's Pocket Pivot swivels 360 degrees for full water flow and freedom to water with ease all around your home. When you're all done, this rust-proof anti-burst hose shrinks back down to pocket size for effortless handling and tidy storage. Plus, your super light and ultra-durable Pocket Hose Copperhead is backed with a 10-year warranty. What could be better than that? I'll tell you what, an exciting radio-exclusive offer just for you. For a limited time, you can get a free Pocket Pivot and their 10-pattern sprayer with the purchase of any size Copperhead hose. Just text WATER to 64,000. That's WATER to 64,000 for your 2 free gifts with purchase. WATER to 64,000.
By texting 64,000, you agree to receive recurring automated marketing messages from Pocket Hose. Message and data rates may apply. No purchase required. Terms apply. Available at pockethose.com/terms.
Yes.
I'm sure there are a lot of challenges. And when you're talking about, being Jewish, and in our country, we have faced, and we all know that if you watch the news, some very difficult times. A lot of anti-Semitism, the rise of anti-Semitism, which concerns so many people. And demonstrations on college campuses, what's going on, with the war in Israel. How do you handle that? What do we do to, and I know you're a positive person, to help that situation, to diffuse it in some way, to create a better understanding among all of us? How do we do that?
It's a great question, and I do not mean to minimize anybody's pain or anybody's deep worry and concern for either their Jewish community or other communities, including in, there's been a rise also in Islamophobia after October 7th,
Absolutely.
so I acknowledge that as well.
All of it.
I always return back to the words of my faith. And in Judaism, one of the things that really makes us who we are as Jews is mitzvahs. A lot of people think that's just bar mitzvahs and parties.
No,
and those are great. I love them. But they're deeds, right?
Yeah.
They're actions. We're people of action. And we can find a way through despair, through work, through action, through charity. And I really mean it. And in my first chapter, I actually talk about where I was on October 7th. I was facilitating an incredibly angelic bar mitzvah retreat weekend in the mountains of Pennsylvania for actually a child who has a Greek Orthodox mother and a Jewish father. and at the same time trying to figure out, oh my gosh, how do I explain to a community that's made interfaith friends and even family members what is unfolding? And after I left the bar mitzvah weekend, I understood immediately I had to do things like raise money for charity as soon as I could. And I would tell people, yes, you can do something. You can donate. You can create some sort of donation fund. You can actually collect things. You can help. Sure. And you can help also with prayer. And and you can help with understanding the situation. Yeah. If we educate ourselves, then we can become better representatives of our people, to our people, and also out there in the world. There was plenty to do. I have so much to do. And
I can imagine. Yeah.
This summer I went to Israel to pick fruits and vegetables on farms that were otherwise left empty from workers because the typical worker was now fighting in the war.
Yeah, sure.
And I stimulated the Israeli economy. I did things to try and help the best way I could. But there's always something.
There's always something. And when we're talking about this, I mean, we specifically talked about, the Jewish culture and also the issues that are confronting you right now. But it is, as we know, and it's assumed, a bigger picture in terms of all mankind, the discrimination that we face and the understanding. And that to me is very important. I look to our leaders and I'm saying we need good leadership. We need campaigns. I'm sure you agree with that. We need people who are saying, you know what, this is a campaign that I'm starting, hands across the world. How do we unite one another? We're missing that, Rebecca. And I'm looking for that somewhere. What's wrong? How come we don't have that kind of strong leadership?
I think we have a lot of well-meaning leaders in the world that often, because they're parts of giant institutions, whether they be religious institutions or even the government, that get caught up in a lot of red tape, institutional red tape. They've got donors, they've got board directors, etc. And we can't get out of our own way.
There's got to be a way to stop that, though.
I agree.
We need change.
And so what I've decided, because I'm just one person and I don't work for a giant synagogue, I have about, at any given moment, between 50 and 70 families that I'm currently working with, which is a lot for one person.
Yeah, sure it is.
We can make a drop in this bucket or ocean of despair and sadness. We can add a drop of positivity. And if we keep adding drops, eventually it really will have the ripple effect and spread out. And for myself, that's how I choose to be a rabbi. Yeah. I'd welcome an opportunity to sit at some of those big think tanks, but I think sometimes, unfortunately, the bigger they are, sometimes the more they get in their own way. Yeah,
I understand. I'm holding your book.
Yeah.
It's called Confessions of a Female Rabbi. A Relevant Religion in an On-Demand World. That's an interesting line, on demand, where we want everything, boom, instantly at our fingertips. In the course of your book, what is the message here? When someone picks up this book and reads it, at the end of the last page, what do you think they're going to say to themselves? What have they learned?
My desire, God willing, is that after somebody reads the book, or is even, I'd say, a third of the way through the book, they'll understand that we, as regular people, have the ability to bring religious experiences to ourselves, even in moments that we didn't necessarily think that the religion fit in, but also we can either bring it in ourselves or seek facilitators who are willing to help us live our lives in religious context.
So important to be able to share that. I think it's important to have it within yourself, but you have to be able to share that with others so that the good word gets out and we see some progress.
And particularly in life cycle moments, whether it's the birth of a child, whether it's the death of a grandparent or parent, people start to realize where they fit into a giant chain of life. And often seeing it with religion in mind gives those incredible life cycle moments so much more meaning. And as a rabbi, I can help put those moments into context and hopefully leave people joyous and happy and want more.
Yes, absolutely, and want more. I like that line. I always ask a question, and this is one that I kind of like to finish with. If you could pass along some good advice to a newborn baby, that they would be able to tuck away someplace and read it later in life and say, wow, I'm so glad that Rabbi Rebecca showed me that. What would it be?
First of all, I'm really thinking about that question.
Yeah.
One piece of advice.
I'm sure you have a lot of thoughts.
Yeah. I would say keep an open heart, because the world will continue to evolve and change. But as long as your heart, my dear child, my dear baby that I look into your eyes, is open, you're going to move with the changes. You're going to feel the pulse of the current of the world and hopefully find your place there. So don't lead with a closed fist, but an open heart.
An open heart. I like that a lot. Rebecca, if people want to get your book, I mean, there are a lot of sources. Do you want to give it a plug and tell people where they can buy your wonderful book, Confessions of a Female Rabbi?
Thank you so much. Well, you can look on Amazon. You can look on, Barnes & Noble. It's basically available wherever books are sold. And also, you can follow me on Instagram at @myhotrabbi. And
I like that.
Yeah, thanks.
My hot rabbi.
That's right. I'm everybody's hot rabbi.
Okay.
And I share lots of teachings, and I let you follow along with me to all the joyous moments in my career. Weddings, bar mitzvahs, baby namings. Man,
all those good
learning,
things. Well,
yes.
Congratulations to you. Mazel tov, as we say, right?
Thank you, yes.
Rabbi Rebecca Jablonski. Great book, Confessions of a Female Rabbi. Thanks for being on our program today.
Thank you for having me.
All good positive feelings and good thoughts.
Thanks, Ernie.
Thank you so much, okay? Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching, everybody. See you next time.
Americans love using their credit cards, the most secure and hassle-free way to pay. But D.C. politicians want to change that with the Durbin-Marshall credit card bill. This bill lets corporate megastores pick how your credit card is processed, allowing them to use untested payment networks that jeopardize your data security and rewards. Corporate megastores will make more money, and you pay the price. Tell Congress to guard your card, because Americans lose when politicians choose. Learn more at guardyourcard.com.